Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to take a look at a wonderful nonprofit that is helping build up women from the inside out. Their journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think all of us have negative self-talk from time to time. No matter how successful you are, you have self-doubt. But imagine being down on your luck or between jobs. That negative self-talk has a way of spiraling out of control. To talk about that today, Lyn Berman and Corena Mitchell, both with Attitudes and Attire. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Lyn, let's start with you. How did this all begin?
Oh, it began when I was 9 years old. My father took my brother and I to a prison, telling us if we did something wrong, this is where we would end up. And while I was there, and I still remember this, there was a man there in prison who was working on a stagecoach, making it out of wood. And I thought, wow, I wonder if he has ever had a second chance at life. Went home, and something inside of me told me, I want to change the world for women, because that's how I grew up, without hope, and I wanted to do that for other women and myself. And I was remarried in I can't remember the year. We were married 40 years,
Sure.
But my husband was an attorney, and I said, this is my dream. This is what I've always wanted to do. And he did all the legal work, and we opened our doors in 1996.
Wow.
And the world in the Apparel Mart had 300 square feet, and today we have 5,000 square feet.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to meet Corena and hear her story in a second, but let's go ahead and roll this video.
I always wanted to change the world for women. I was 9 years old, and I still kind of remember I was put on this earth to do that. And that's how we came to be. Took many years before I ever started, but we opened our doors in 1996, and we've grown tremendously in 21 and a half years.
My first day at Boots to Heels, I often tell Brandy, I was just coming just because, you know, I was going to be gathering information to give to other ladies I would meet. But I say within walking in the room in less than an hour, my guard immediately fell.
It was the Attitudes and Attire component with the core program and just the reinforcements of the affirmation of who I am. That was great, but then I got introduced to Hopeful Smiles, which it was a prayer answer. It was just a prayer answer that I had prayed for years and years to get my teeth fixed, and I just did not have the money to do that.
They are passionate about Attitudes and Attire and helping the military, helping people who need dental options, and they're loving and encouraging, but by the same token, they want to give them the gift of clothing, but also the gift of a different life and a different way to live that life.
I hear time and time again volunteers saying, you know, I get more out of this than possibly these women do.
Attitudes and Attire gives them, the volunteer, an opportunity to reach out to other women and empower other women. And that's what I love.
And if we needed assistance with networking, if we needed assistance with resumes, interview skills, and more than that, just a self-confidence boost that we can come and get, to be inspired by not only our own stories and things that we had done and could potentially continue to do, but the stories of so many that we gathered around the table with.
We're growing. We always stay within our mission. We never delve out of our mission. And I think that's why we're still here after 22 years.
What a cool nonprofit. And I can only imagine like the cheers when you're walking the runway.
It's amazing.
It's really special, I think.
Well, I want to bring Corena into this. You have a very heartfelt story. Will you share your journey with us?
Absolutely. I was in the Army for 16 years. When I got out, I thought that my transition into the civilian world would be easy, and it wasn't. My husband, he retired from the Army as well. His civilian job sent him to Afghanistan for 18 months. My husband and I met in Iraq. So I understand deployments, and I didn't want to stress him out. So though I was struggling, I never said anything to anyone. I'm Superwoman. I can do it all. At 35, I went through my second pregnancy. It was really difficult. And I never transitioned. I did a resume. I'm a great worker. I have all this experience. Anyone wants me. And I couldn't even get an interview. I eventually became depressed, sad. I had my daughter. So I was also dealing with postpartum. And I decided that it was best that I end my life, that my family would be better off without me not there. So I established a plan. I had a year plan. I went to school full time because I wanted to have a degree. I wanted my girls to know that mommy had a degree and that they got one too. So I graduated in a year. I was taking 21 hours a semester, determined to graduate. It was the most difficult thing I ever did. The day before graduation, I was at school, and someone randomly invited me to Attitudes and Attire. This was on a Friday, so it started Tuesday. Well, Tuesday was 2 days before I had planned on ending my life. And so initially it sounded great. You get free professional clothing and these workshops. Wow, that sounds cool. And then I was like, well, I don't need it. I'm not going to be here. So I declined. Over that weekend, God intervened. He weighed heavily on my heart, and I went to the workshop. I didn't know what to expect, but when I got there, I learned about self-compassion, giving myself self-compassion, self-esteem. I thought I was fine. I had no self-esteem. I had absolutely no boundaries, and I was 37 at the time. And they asked us what were our boundaries. Couldn't answer the question. So I learned all these tools and that I didn't even know I needed at the time. And it's important to mention that I went through the Boots to Heels program for female veterans and military spouses. So on the second day of the workshop, a female veteran came in and shared her story. And this is what saved me. It was similar to my story. And I realized the things that I was going through, I wasn't alone. And I think that's the one thing that gets us is we feel alone. We feel we're the only ones going through the things when we're suffering. So through Attitudes and Attire, I got the tools that I needed to be okay, but I also got the resources I needed to get the help that I needed. I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety. I had quite a few body ailments going on with me. In the military, you suck it up and drive on, so I had never complained and didn't realize what was going on with me. So through those resources, I got my diagnosis, and I came out of isolation. I self-isolated because of everything I was going through, and I started volunteering with Attitudes and Attire. Anytime they would have me, I was there, and the position opened up. I was asked to apply for it, and I was like, oh, I could never do for the women what was done for me. So I initially said no, I wasn't applying, but once again, God intervened, told me to apply, and here I am almost 5 years later helping women the way I needed help.
That may be one of the most powerful stories I've ever heard. And I was a television news reporter for 25 years. So thank you for having the courage to share that. I would love to hear Lyn's reflections on this. Do you remember meeting Corena?
I do. You know, I remember meeting you, and I remember seeing something in Corena that she did not see in herself. And I think what I saw in her was strength. I did not hire her right away. I mean, it was a process. But, and I actually spoke to some other friends, one from eQuest. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah. And said, what do you think? And he said, I think you're thinking right. I think you should do this. And I did. I hired Corena. And I never looked back because she's wonderful.
Absolutely. And you head up the Boots to Heels program. So explain what that is.
So our Boots to Heels program is for female veterans, military spouses, and first responder spouses. We have a camaraderie that we understand each other, we speak each other's language, but we're also helping each other transition into the civilian world. So that is the difference between a core program. The core program is for all women 18 and up, and then Boots to Heels for female veterans.
And I know your story was featured on Channel 8, and you have a connection to the Carry the Load program. So maybe talk a little bit about the Channel 8 program and the connection to Carry the Load.
Well, Debbie Wright, the executive director of Carry the Load, she heard my story, and she approached me and asked me, was I interested in sharing my story? So they did a short documentary on me. When I got out of the Army, I assumed my transition would be easy. I was having physical, medical issues that I didn't understand, and I was barely functioning, undiagnosed with PTSD. Spring of 2012, I was lying in bed watching television, which is all I ever did. The news came on, and there was one man marching from West Point, New York to Dallas, Texas.
Coming out of the military, I wasn't sure what was next. Clint called me and just told me about Carry the Load. I wasn't prepared for entering any kind of organization at the time. And Clint just said, well, can you get an American flag on foot over 30 days, 1,750 miles from West Point to Dallas? I said, absolutely, that we can do.
That's the Carry the Load relay and volunteers who joined to walk its first 2-mile leg.
Today on the East Coast, this is the Carry the Load relay. It's on its way to Dallas.
The East Coast relay team, which started its walk on May 1st in West Point, New York.
Now the group's mission is bring back the true meaning of Memorial Day.
On the heels of us having lost some friends of ours at SEAL Team 5, we got a group together, I think starting in December of 2010, talking about an event where we could come together and have a meaningful Memorial Day experience.
When I saw Coleman on the news in New Jersey, that ignited something in me. And it was the first time I understood that something was wrong with me, but I didn't have to die.
Corena's story is real. It's not a one of one, it's a one of a couple 100,000. That's the real story.
I think it's important to meet Coleman because he saved one life. He needs to know that that walk, that determination that I saw in him, that he gave that to me to get the help I needed.
Corena's had some really low points in her life, but she has overcome.
It's an honor to be able to meet Coleman. I just can't believe 10 years later, that's what I'm doing. That day back in 2012 gave me hope. And now here I am every day dedicating my life to helping and providing for my fellow veterans. Thank you, Coleman. One of the most difficult things I did, but as Lyn said, Lyn has taught me so much. She has pushed me. I've done and accomplished so many things because of Lyn.
Oh.
And so here I am with Carry the Load. Carry the Load is a nonprofit that's out of Dallas, and they teach about the true reason why we celebrate Memorial Weekend, Memorial Day. It's not just a barbecue day. It's to celebrate our fallen soldiers, our fallen first responders. And so Carry the Load re-educates people on what Memorial Day truly means. Because of my story, they did it with me, and I traveled with them. My military photo is on 4 or 5 of their buses. I got to travel with them from West Point, New York to Baltimore, Maryland. It was the most amazing thing to see what they do. We walked from West Point, New York to Dallas, Texas. And we in Dallas on Memorial Weekend. All 5 buses come from different regions to Dallas. And you meet people along the way, and they have these stories. One man, he lost his son. His son ended his life, and he was able to hug and thank me for not doing the same thing as him, for succeeding. And seeing the hope that it gave him, Carry the Load is just what they do for so many is amazing.
Wow. You are just such an amazing person and so inspirational. I can see why you're so effective in your current role, because you've been there.
Exactly.
We've got some more video of some of your fashion shows, your luncheons. And when you're watching these videos of these women who are now empowered, I mean, what does that feel like, Lyn?
Oh, just makes me very emotional. These women, it just empowers them, and they empower us. We just had our luncheon, and the day before they practiced, we weren't sure how it would end up. And as soon as one walked down, the whole audience clapped. They got standing ovations. It was so powerful, and I was telling Corena, they empower us. They do.
Wow. And there are tears in your eyes, and I know this is real. This is like you are singing the song you were born to sing right now, aren't you? I think
so.
And how many women have you helped over the years?
Over 26,000.
Wow. That's amazing. I want to touch on some other programs, Hopeful Smiles.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, that's our dental program, and how that came to be is really, we were trying to see what would really help our women. And our women, if they've been abused, if they've not had dental care, they can't smile. And so I was doing Pilates, this is 13 years ago, and I heard a woman sitting down with another trainer, and she was talking about nonprofit. And I wanted to listen. Anyway, that was over, but she came back and I came back, and I said to my trainer, I have to go over there and talk to her. She was a dentist. She was trying to find a program to work with. And she hadn't found anyone. And I said, well, I really need to talk to you. And we had lunch, and that was Mary Swift.
Oh.
Maybe 13 years ago. And I said, we have to have this program. It would do so much for our women. And sure enough, she helped me start it. We now have about 50 dentists that donate their chair time. They all do different things. We have some general dentists, surgeons, and it's just been a godsend for the women.
And you also have a Spanish-speaking
program? We have
program?
a Spanish-speaking, and this is interesting. I have 2 women on my team. They are bilingual. And they changed our workbook into Spanish for our women, because they decided they wanted to start a program. I said, great, do it. And it's been, what, 3 years?
3 years
3
now.
years. And they run the program. They also were clients.
Wow. And the core program, you're teaching job interview skills, self-esteem?
Yes, self-esteem, work ethics. And that's all translated into Spanish speaking.
Wow.
We stay in our mission. Yeah.
You ladies have been a real blessing. I'm going to give Corena the final word. If somebody's watching this and they feel compelled to give, tell them why they need to give.
Wow. Because because we're changing women's lives. And so often we need help, and we're not aware of how much help that we need. And we're empowering women. We're teaching them that they are not alone and that they can do this, that they can survive. We have so many women, humans, but our stories are difficult, and here we are still pushing through. So those donations help keep pushing our clients through. Wow.
You have been a blessing. Thank you so much for all the wonderful things you're doing to make this a better planet. We're going to end with the website, which is attitudesandattire.org. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.